legacy, and when you leave this world, I'm going to be very blunt. What do you hope people say about you?
My favorite answer to that is anything.
Oh,
I don't control that, and I'm trying to do good while I'm on the planet as far as I know it. If people say anything, then maybe that's evidence of existence.
again, I've asked that question a number of times, and that's nobody's ever said that. But I love the part, the good, that if Joe says Scott's this and Debbie says Scott's this, it's all good. Yeah, if you left that part, it's an impact, what you're saying. I'd leave a good impact, whatever they say. And if they all say the same thing, he's just a great dude. Well, up in heaven, you're going to be happy and smiling anyways. With empathy in business, what's one word you'd use besides empathy?
Listening.
Oh, great one. Yeah. So empathy is the action of listening.
You have to. And I,
Yeah.
before I did my coach training, I thought I knew what listening was. And I continue to get better, hearing specific words, nonverbals, size, pauses, body language. There's a lot more to it that if you can pick up on what people are saying and ask them what they mean, we get to new depths.
That last 30 seconds he just said, you share that with somebody and they start listening more. One, did you send them a gift? Two, did you impact them? Done. Me and Scott try to do that every day with people we meet, guests, and everything that we're interacting with. You're going to be saying need, because it will change your life, but you'll grow, whether it's revenue, personally, family, whatever that growth is, it's going to happen.
I want to invite you into the Business Network, my free school community for entrepreneurs and business owners who want to grow their network and scale their business. Inside, you'll get step-by-step lessons, monthly workshops, feedback, scripts, resources, bonuses, and a community of like-minded people who believe in helping each other win. Join us today at school.com/thebusinessnetwork and click Join Group. I'll see you inside.
Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm your host, Steve Ramona. And again, I'd say this a lot, but it's true. I love doing these podcasts. I meet great guys like my guest today, who's got an incredible background, especially a sports background. And you've heard me millions of times in 950 shows that bridge between sports and business is just so wide and so long and connects perfectly. And if you're not a sports person, you can still be great in business, but I just can fall on that, and so can my guests. And we'll talk about a whole bunch of things like that. Before we start, though, and get into coaching, leadership, and love, let's do our gratitude for today. Speaking of love, you are more than enough. In fact, I think you are amazing. You're more than enough. Wow. Don't have to be perfect. You don't have to hit your goals. You don't have to be a billionaire. You don't have to be a celebrity. Just be enough. And not that my guest is just enough. He's much more than that. This is a perfect fit for him. Let's bring our guest on. Scott, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Steve. I love your message.
That was powerful, wasn't it? And you know what I love, Scott? I have a box here of gratitude. It's just random. And Mr. Universe or God, whoever you believe in, always pulls it up properly. Leadership in business and corporation especially is a mess. Yeah, I said it, audience. It is. I've talked to enough of you that are working with top companies, top corporations. Why is it?
It's such a tough one. I don't like to generalize. I think it's individual, but I now have worked with 1,500 clients in my coaching business. And, the way they talk about is being stuck or lost. And these aren't necessarily the people that are out of work. These are the people in roles that just don't feel like they're in the right place. And it may be a manager that's not listening, that doesn't care, that doesn't think about them as a whole human being. So maybe that's some of what's going on. Is there are still managers that don't know how to lead.
Yeah, that's the fault of people in business. Why put Steve Ramona as a manager if he's not a good leader? Hey, if he's good at putting car parts together on the conveyor belt, that's my job and that's where I'm great at. Leave me there. I don't think it's an award, Scott. given me a manager position if I'm not skilled, dude. Not saying I can't learn. Is that true?
Yeah, and you might not even want it. I know a lot of happy individual contributors, and they lead laterally, they lead task forces, they lead projects. They might not want to manage people, and you don't have to make them do that just because it's the hierarchy and it's been this much time, and this is how we reward people with compensation and all those things. So I think it's, up to everybody what it is they want to accomplish, where they'll be most successful, what skills and strengths and superpowers they have to bring to the table. And it's up to those leaders to get to know them, understand that, hopefully hire in the right way, for the right people in the right roles, but also be open to moving people around and shuffling and helping people achieve their life goal, whether it's within your company or not. You can still be an advocate.
Yeah, I'm glad we go down a black hole with this, and we won't, because we got 20, 25 minutes. But that's well said. I like that. And your background's amazing. I mean, I'm a big sports guy. As you said, you worked at NASCAR.com, eventually running that. But then you jumped the fence and said, I'm going to coach those guys. Why that jump?
Yeah, one word on that is layoff.
Okay.
So the world told me it was time. I worked for Turner Sports, Turner Broadcasting for 20 years. Phenomenal, great time. Like you said, ran the NASCAR.com business, worked on the NBA digital business, ran a strategy team, ran an analytics and research team. And, just so happens right at exactly 20 years, the company was going through changes, and it was time for my number to be drawn. Fortunately, about 8 months before that, I had an inkling that something might happen at some point. A colleague who I thought was bulletproof got laid off, and I thought, okay, maybe it will be me next. What is it I want to do in this next chapter? So for me, I ran into a executive coach. I was in a session while I was thinking about my future, and looked across the screen like we are today, and I thought maybe that. And so I just had that fortuitous light bulb go off, and the courage then to take a next step, which was beginning training for it. If I really wanted to do this, I got into the training, learned more about it, practiced coaching, and I loved it more every step of the way. So by the time I did get laid off, my business plan was written. I knew my mission, I knew my purpose, did a few more months of research, talking to other coaches, and then launched my business 3 years ago, this past March.
1,500 clients in 3 years. That's unbelievable. These guys are rock star, a goat, as we'll say in the sports field, because that's pretty strong. So let's talk about people listening, because there's a lot of entrepreneurs that have been laid off or relieved their duties, fired, whatever word you want to use. It's been a while. I mean, you've worked with 1,500 clients, so you've probably seen layoffs as a coach. What would you advise them right now if they're seen or have been laid off?
If they haven't yet, I would say define ready. What does it mean to you to be ready if that might happen? And, that is just sort of Boy Scouts motto, is be prepared. And so I didn't get that light bulb until I got it. And so I can't force somebody to go into that process, because if they're like me, I was loyal, wanted to stick around. I didn't want to, cheat on my company. But it was actually in that coaching session, my coach said, they heard me saying the word loyalty a few times. And they said, what does that mean to you? And I actually realized in that moment that loyalty was to my managers. I did have leaders that were wonderful and empathetic and listened and inspired and motivated. And so I was loyal to them, even though our company had got bought and sold a couple of times. I wasn't so much loyal to the company, but I was loyal to the people. And that unlocked just enough space for me to have that epiphany I told you about, to say, oh, coaching does have this value. Listening, having the conversation, being a little provocative, that opened my eyes and brain to that new possibility that enabled me to take, one step in that direction and see if I was ready. So that's, if you are in a role, what does readiness mean to you? if you have been laid off, I feel for you. And I've seen a range of a spectrum of emotions. And so I walk into those conversations open-minded. I don't know how you're going to feel. Usually you're not that happy to see me as an outplacement coach, but this gives us an opportunity to be partners. And I say, take a breath. I think it's underrated, just pausing and taking a breath. And I don't mean take weeks off, although some people choose to do that. I'm not prescriptive on what's right for you. You may have some urgency. You may want to keep the ball rolling. You may need that break and want to take the break, but at least a breath so that you're not um, in that sort of stress mode of making decisions.
Yeah.
A lot of people want to, look at my resume, let me get applying. And I think if you take a breath, you can apply a little strategy to the process. What is it you want to do? And then how do you get it?
Yeah. And breath, I had a guest talk about be human for a bit, which is breath. Take that deep breath, be human, be pity. I had things happen to me last year. It was big, could be life-changing, and didn't happen because of lies. And, I was pity party for a while. My partner the next day, thank God, said, let's jump back in. We got to find something, let's work on something else because this is gone. As you're talking, I'm thinking about, this is a unique question, is if you didn't get laid off, do you think you still return to sports?
I would have not chosen to leave, at least for the visibility I had at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Those managers I mentioned, those leaders, they are not there anymore. And so I think the likelihood that I'd be around practically or by choice is lower, because that's why I was there. I believed in where they had us pointed, and I believed in that mission. And so I think it's less likely because they're gone. But you never know what the universe holds for you.
No, and that's why I say when I ask it's a unique question, because we're just dreaming, we're guessing. But if you wouldn't have done Plan B, which is what I call that, what you did, which is so obvious, and even a Plan C, just be prepared, because then when it hits, it doesn't hit you as hard. And you just said you've run a lot of people that get that phone call or that email, that text, like, "Hey, your job, you got 2 days to pack up," and they're gone. And like, got 3 kids, and it's happening every day, especially now. Not as bad back then, but even worse now. Midlife and quarter life career. What are the difference there? Because I've heard midlife, but quarter life is unique to me.
Yeah, quarter life is what I decided to write about this second time around. And I have kids that age. I teach students at Emory University that age. I coach, some students that are going into the workplace. And what I felt from them was this exacerbated stress level. There's just something different when I had those conversations, or thought about the challenges that are up against them that are different than generations past. And so I wanted to understand it better. I ended up bracketing at 18 to 25 for my research. I did a bunch of interviews and then hundreds of surveys. And so I really wanted to gather the data about, okay, what is going on? What are they stressed about? What are they doing to relieve that stress? And what resources would they like to have more access to? So I went into that quarter life more as a second party or third party, where I reflect back on my life at that age, but I really wanted to put myself in the shoes of the current generation. Why are they stressed out, and what can we do about it?
And I'm 64, Scott, so I hear this all the time. When I used to hear my dad at 64 say, man, it's crazy. And the young people I work with, like you do, I'm sure you hear this all, well, it's different back then. That was 40 years ago. And it was different. And there was still stress, but it was different stress. But the speed of business, the speed with AI and tech, is that putting so much more stress on these kids?
It is. And AI is definitely part of that fear, which I think a lot of people have, no matter your age. But the numbers are starting to bear it out that entry level jobs are declining. The unemployment rate for recent grads is lower than the national average for the first time ever. So I think that's there. The social media, though, this age group, 18 to 25, we're social media natives. It's all they've ever known. And if you have, people in that age group, the best quote I got from an interview was a requote, which was, "Comparison is the thief of joy." And I think that's what they're inundated by on a daily basis, is everybody else putting out a version of their best selves, maybe their fictitious self, and feeling like you're behind. They're not on the right timeline. They're not keeping up. They don't know exactly what they want to do the rest of their lives. None of that stuff's necessary. But the reality is that's how they're feeling, is behind, stuck, lost, and just not good enough to bring back your
Yeah.
gratitude.
Yeah, that's a scary part, I think, which is different now. And I don't know how old you are. I think you're 35, so you're much younger than me. Uh, I knew you'd love that. But the kids is the comparison thing that you're saying. Kids are billionaires at 25, 30 years old. I just read some 14-year-old was at Milan for the fashion week with his line. Well,
Yeah.
when we were 15, there's no way I would think about that, or playing NFL football. I thought about, but the chances. So they're growing up faster. What do you tell these college kids and people listening to slow down?
Hmm. It's tough to tell them anything. So I want to make sure to make this point.
That's a great point.
And it is something I've learned better through, coaching training and getting certified and asking questions. Is lecturing has never been the solution to, a not fully formed cerebral cortex. I'm probably still that way because I'm pretty independent, where I don't like being told what to do. So in the research I did, I'll give you an example. Everybody knows and probably has some experience the fact that this younger generation is not as good with interpersonal communication. They don't want to order, in the line at Starbucks. They'll do the mobile ordering. They don't want to go to the, happy hour, cocktail hour and talk. They don't have a conversation. They just don't have those skills. So in the research, in terms of asking what resources they want to have access to, they said networking, they said mentoring. So they know it's important. You don't need to breathe down their neck and say, why don't you have a mentor, or why aren't you networking? They know it's important. They're just not sure how to go about it. And so developing, tools for networking, I call it as a research project, or building relationships where it's not this icky thing that they might think networking is. It's not always about asking for the job. And mentoring, I think this is a lesson for parents or for managers of Gen Z folks, is maybe the best thing you can do is introduce them to somebody else that they feel comfortable having that career conversation with. It doesn't always have to be you as the parent. Parents, of course, have responsibilities and instill values, but having that uncle, having that coach, having that club advisor, having a professor, there's other people that your child might listen to, or your young employee might listen to, that's not you. And I think that takes some humility and vulnerability. But if you share that, then it's what they're actually looking for, not a lecture.
Yeah, that reminds me of and different voice, what you're saying, just a different voice. And I growing up, I don't know about you, Scott, you probably have too. It's your mom would say, do this. You go to the teacher at school, teacher says the same exact thing. You're like, yeah, teacher, right? Hey, mom, I come home and go, hey, teacher said that. Mom goes, oh, I just told you that yesterday. That's really similar to what you're talking about.
It is.
That's being human.
Because you don't want to see your kids or employees struggle, and that's a tough part of all this, is that's where growth comes from. We all know that now, but they have to find their own way, and that's why when I talk about empathy, it also has to go with empowerment, and I think empowerment includes giving them tools, frameworks, education, but also letting them have a voice in their own path.
Yeah, yeah. Empathy's missing in business. I just watched, today's the May 7th, last night, Devil's Wear Prada 2. Only guy in the theater, but I love that. I love being different. But it reminds me of that how Meryl Streep was that Hitler type of leader, bombastic, and just ignored people. They were still successful, and that was the problem until they weren't. And then that amplified, like, oh, God, she's a really bad person. How do we fix that type of thing? So with your book, do you talk about empathy in business and empathy and with the younger people? How's that work?
Yeah, in general. So I've got a chapter on family and I think this is probably where it hits home the most. It's in a section of the book called Bad News, Good News. And the three chapters are AI, social media, and family. The family piece of it is, in the survey, family came out as one of the great stress relievers. Family, friends, and pets. This is how people cope with challenges and stressors. But also, one of the top stressors was also family. And so there's this, and it may be the same family member on different days, or it might be different family members, or different people that have a different perspective on where family fits into your, career guidance. And so I think when it comes to family and having empathy for what the next generation is going through, I think we have to put our own experience aside. It's hard to do that when it's all you know. And what is it? You walked uphill in snow both ways. There's legend to some of that, and you might have struggled in a certain way, but you also might not understand what they're going through. This comparison piece, if you're not living in their feed, you don't really see what's going on. If you don't see their group chats and what's going on with, bullying or bragging or anything like that, if you don't see, what happens in class, if you go to the teacher's office hours in college and you get shamed for it, right? This stuff is real. And I think it does require empathy to know that's why they're not going to the career office, is they feel shame. And so, okay, let's respect that and maybe introduce them to a tutor or a professor that they are a little more comfortable with, or, find a way for those career counselors to meet them where they're at.
Empathy is so big, and it's missing, as we said earlier, beginning of the show. You've inspired me, Scott, so I'm going to do something special. Audience, I want you to listen carefully. You first three people that reach out to me or Scott, and you mentioned this podcast, you're going to get his new book. And if you just got that chapter, social media, AI, and family, and learn something from that, I think you'll be much, much better. So just reach out to him, or he'll get his contact information here in a minute, or you'll have mine. Just go to the podcast.com. Wherever you reach out to me, I see it, and I will send you his book for free, because empathy, I want to follow his lead. I want to stand right beside Scott with that. And my empathy is, I want to give you a gift to impact you, like Scott's doing 1,500 clients. I'm going to say that again, 1,500 clients. This guy knows what he's talking about, just a little bit. So let's end with this legacy. And when you leave this world, I'm going to be very blunt. What do you hope people say about you? Big one, I know.
My favorite answer to that is anything.
Oh.
I don't control that, and I'm trying to do good while I'm on the planet as far as I know it. If people say anything, then maybe that's evidence of existence. Wow.
Again, I've asked that question a number of times, and nobody's ever said that. They've given nothing wrong with those answers. I know you would agree with that. They're like, this, but I love the part, the good, that if Joe says Scott's this and Debbie says Scott's this, it's all good. It's not like Scott screwed me over. Scott's a thief. He's a criminal. It's, if you left that part, it's an impact, what you're saying. I leave a good impact, whatever they say. And if they all say the same thing, he's just a great dude, well, up in heaven, you're going to be happy and smiling anyway. So let's get to know you a little bit better. Let's know who Scott is. Not the NASCAR Scott, not the coaching Scott. We know a little bit about that now. So we're going to go to I'm going to come to your town, and I'm going to reserve a table at a restaurant, your favorite restaurant. A couple of things I want you to do. I want to invite three people, whether dead or alive, who've been influential in your life. For me and for the table, but I'm a foodie, I would want to know what Scott orders for the table for us to eat while we're talking.
Oh my gosh. So I got to name the people and
three
the food
people.
we're eating.
Food we're eating. Things that pop in your head. Because I know it sounds like a lot of influential people.
I mean, it's easy. It's family. Like, there's no doubt in my mind. So I'll just say I had two grandfathers and a step-grandfather. So I'm going to put the three of them together. And I don't know, let's just have some pizza and maybe some beers and talk.
Sometimes the simplest meal in the world, Scott, is the best meal, especially in a situation like this. I get to meet your grandfathers. You get to talk to them, get to know them. Where can we get the book? And then where can we get the prequel and the sequel? You have a prequel that just came out, and you have another book. Where can they all be found?
Yeah, so everything's on Amazon, of course. The new book I published in partnership with Ripples Media, and so it's actually in a lot more places: Barnes and Noble, bookshops.org, a couple local bookstores, which is really cool. If you're not sure where to find it, go to scottdoyne.com, and the links are there.
People listening, I know, because thank you again for taking the time. You've impacted me with some notes. How can people reach out? Because I don't even want to.
Yeah, aside from the website, LinkedIn. I live on LinkedIn, not only for my own edification, but trying to find opportunities for my clients.
And we'll put those in the show notes. So you have access to them, or you can reach out to me to get access to them, because you're going to want to talk to this guy. I mean, it's my second time. I've been blessed both times. One more question. With empathy in business, what's one word you'd use besides empathy?
Listening.
Oh, great one. Yeah. So empathy is the action of listening. Am I saying that right?
You have to. And I,
Yeah.
before I did my coach training, I thought I knew what listening was. And I continue to get better, hearing specific words, nonverbals, size, pauses, body language. There's a lot more to it that if you can pick up on what people are saying and ask them what they mean, we get to new depths.
Yeah. Well, audience, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And thanks again, Scott, for taking the time. That last 30 seconds he just said, you share that with somebody and they start listening more. 1, did you send them a gift? 2, did you impact them? Done. Me and Scott try to do that every day with people we meet, guests, and everything that we're interacting with. You need to work towards that too. I'm going to be saying need, because it will change your life, but you'll grow, whether it's revenue, personally, family, whatever that growth is, it's going to happen. You know what? I call it Christmas every day. I get to give gifts every day. And do I get gifts back? Absolutely. So with that being said, me and Scott want to thank everybody for watching or listening to this podcast. And we'll see you all in the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Have a great day, everyone.